Good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum. I thank Mr. Fahim Keyani, Chairman of the Tehreek Kashmir, United Kingdom, for organizing this webinar on the half-widows of the Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. We salute him for his campaign for freedom of Jammu and Kashmir from the Indian occupation. We are also grateful to the British parliamentarians for consistently raising their voice for the rights of Kashmiri women. According to the Kashmir Media Service, since 1989, the Indian occupation forces have made 12,000 women widows by killing their husbands, and more than 11,000 women of all ages have been raped by the security forces as an act of vengeance to terrorize the entire Kashmiri population. These are egregious and unacceptable crimes against humanity according to international law. The wounds of the thousands of half-widows, half-wives as they are called, are even deeper. These are the women whose husbands were forcibly disappeared without a trace and have not yet been declared dead or alive. The lives of these women are in limbo. As victims of Indian atrocities, they live in constant agony. The only hope they have is that their husbands may probably be buried in more than 6,000 mass graves uncovered by Kashmiris in remote areas. Forensics of these dead bodies have not yet been conducted to identify the murderers. Half-widows live in penury, facing legal, social, and economic problems. Their trauma is unending as they are stigmatized, they can't remarry, and their children do not know who their fathers are. They all have fractured identities. The idyllic valleys and mountains of the occupied territory wail for these forgotten women and their missing men. Their stories have been written, picturized, broadcast, but they get no relief. Portrayal of their pain and plight, however evocative, does not give these half-widows any solace. We are here today to highlight their deep injury and to seek justice for them. All those participating in today's webinar are here to reiterate their strong love for the half-widows of Kashmir. Your words uttered today alone would not heal their wounds. Please raise your voices for the half-widows in your parliamentary chambers, UN bodies, and community centers, as well as on social media platforms. Half-widows are in fact a metaphor for the decimated destiny of the Kashmiri nation. Stand up for Kashmiri men and women and help them attain their freedom and self-determination from Indian tyranny.
Thank you to Tehreek Kashmir, UK and Europe, and also my friend Fahim Keyani Saab and all his team for organizing this webinar. I'm delighted to join wonderful speakers, Afzal Khan and President Saab and Michelle Malik, who have already spoken. I think they have covered most of what I wanted to say, but it's an honor for me to be sharing this platform, the webinar, for the decades of work I know as a councillor. Afzal Khan was campaigning for the Kashmiri people's right of self-determination and also highlighting the plight of Kashmiri people. And Michelle Malik, of course, she has just spoken about our brother Yassin Malik and his struggle, and of course her struggle and suffering, the entire family who have gone through this difficult time. Everyone has touched upon the fact that in conflict zones, it's women and children who suffer most. And we know that in Kashmir, in Palestine, in other places, but in particular in Kashmir, because we are talking about Kashmir, there are figures might be different.
I want to say thank you to Hifsa for putting this effort in. So in conclusion, as a member of parliament, I will continue to raise this issue in the House of Commons. It's an issue which is very close to my heart, and for many decades, I have been vocal on this subject. The APPG on Kashmir, chaired by Debbie Abrahams, understands that any attempts to resolve matters must be with Kashmiris at the center of this issue. However, we would adopt a people's first approach that prioritizes the human right of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Priorities, widows, young people, and elderly, and everyone in between. The vicious cycle of violence that has engulfed the region for far too long and must be. According to the UN Human Rights Council, they have lived for many decades under the mercy of the security forces, which operate with complete impunity. Now, these women fear for themselves and their children and family. In 2019, I've written a poem about Kashmiri women that got published in an American journal. And after that, I faced online bullying. I received hate messages and empty threats for writing about Kashmiri women. And basically, I was very disturbed because of those messages and those threats. And then I realized if I am disturbed by these few number of messages, then what would be the condition of a half widow who faces it on daily basis? So that was the motivation behind writing this book. And then I divided this book into two major
with my mother, so she helps me out. She chips in and she gives me that emotional strength. But all these deprivations that a Kashmiri woman goes through, and at the same time, they're supporting the freedom struggle. They're looking after the children. They are the breadwinners of this movement, and not giving up and facing all types of vulnerabilities and trying to combat that. And not just facing society, they're facing occupation. They're facing a rapist army. They're facing torture, all
Please raise your voices for the half-widows in your parliamentary chambers, UN bodies, and community centers, as well as on social media platforms. Half-widows are in fact a metaphor for the decimated destiny of the Kashmiri nation.
It won't take long. I hope that this event will evolve into effective and efficient movement to end human rights abuses in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir and